As you remember from my last video, where I was discussing about correlation, different types of correlations, and then causation. Now, after that, I said that I will be starting the introduction about probability and different types of terms and terminology, which are mostly used for data science and any kind of basic statistical analysis. So here you could see that this is chapter number 6 in that book, which I am going to cover overall. And in this chapter, the probability, most of the probability which are commonly used for data analysis or in data science, they will be discussed. So, for example, there are something probability rules. For example, if you want to flip a coin, then what are the possibility to get head and tail? As you can see here, 0.5% and zero point 0.5. Here, the probability is basically showing that 50% chance you have to get head and 50% chance to get tail. When you are going to flip second time the coin, then again this will continue and the outcome will be head and head, so head to head. Then there is another chance to get heads and or tail. So in general, this is the, if you will sum it up, then zero point 0.5 plus 0.5 you can see here. So how much you are going to sum it up in this sense? And what could be the overall sum of the probabilities? So in general, the probabilities, overall probability, after summing it up, it must be equal to 1. So this is how you could continue to understand the probability. And in general, what is probability? So probability is to find the possibility or probability of an outcome or of a possible outcome and multiply the probabilities of the branches which you are seeing here in calculation. So this is quite basic if you want to understand the probability. First, find the probability of the outcome, then multiply the probabilities of different branches. And that is what you are seeing, 0.5 into 0.5 equal to 0.25. Similarly, it could be done with the others. But what you are seeing, if you are adding all these four calculations, outcomes, then it is going, the total probability is 1.0. So the probability, total probability can never exceed 1.0. And the formula for probability is, so probability is equal to number of outcomes, favorable outcomes, upon number of all possible outcomes. If probability is equal to 1, then it is called a certain event. If it is 0, then it is called impossible event. So the probability of an event is a number such that 0 is less than equal to probability of any phenomena and less than equal to 1. So that is probability. Now, if you want to understand what are the possible probability in these four figures, which is seen here, that is, one is without any blue space, another is with 2 blue space, another is with 3, another is with 5. So in the first case where there is no blue, then the probability of spinning leading to blue color is almost impossible, no probability. But when you have two blocks with blue color, then there are some probability, but quite unlikely. We are just talking in the sense of wording, not accurate values. Then when you have 50% of the block with blue color, then you have even chance. But when you have all the blocks except one block with blue color, that means very likely to get the blue color. Now, the same thing could be understand for coin toss probability, which is here. You can see. Then when do you when you do multiple coin tosses, so you need to multiply separate probability values to get the probability of a specific outcome. For example, this is here equal to half into half into half equal to 1 upon 8. Now, if you want to define the probability, so this is the branch of mathematics that calculates the estimates or simulates the likelihood of a given event. The same thing you can see with the cards, playing cards. Now we are coming, what are the different types of probabilities? So for example, theoretical probability, experimental probability, conditional probability, axiomatic probability, subjective probability, joint probability, and marginal probabilities. These are the 7 summarized types of probabilities, but in other books you can see some more types of or some less types of probabilities depending on how the people are going to summarize. Now I am coming for one of the probability, that is conditional probability. Then it comes to subjective probability. Then it comes to joint probability. So the conditional probability is the likelihood of an event or outcome occurring based on the occurrence of a previous event or outcome. That means here the occurrence will be dependent on the previous event. But when we are talking about subjective probabilities, then it is a probability that an event will occur based on an individual's personal judgment or own experience. So this is subjective. But when we are talking about joint probability, this is the statistical measure that calculates the likelihood of two events occurring at the same time. So now I will continue with conditional probability, where if you want to write some code in Python, then this is the simplest form to write for any kind of problem where you think that the conditional probability will be applied, then this is the simple form to write the code in Python. Now, what are the roles of possibilities in a statistics? So the 4 summarized roles are here. Probability as a tool for predicting outcomes. So you can use the probability to predict the outcomes. Then probability and risk assessment can be done. Then probability and a statistical inference could be analyzed. And then limitations. There are certain limitations of probabilities also. Now, probability distribution is another term which you could be observing throughout the statistical analysis. One is called continuous probability distribution, another is called discrete probability distribution. So in discrete, it is from the name, it appears that it could be quite random, while in continuous, there will be some continuous up and down going in a form of line, you can say this thing. So discrete probability distributions are of 2 types, binomial distribution and Poisson's distribution. But when you are talking about continuous probability distribution, then one is called normal distribution, another is called uniform distribution. If you want to understand what are normal distribution, I have introduced you enough in the previous thing in terms of figure how it could look like. So before we go to understand probability distribution, this is the statistical function to measure or to describe the likelihood of the variable, taking each value that it can possibly take. Okay. Now, normal distribution, how it could look like, you can see here. Then exponential probability distribution will look like this. Log normal will look like this. Then uniform will be looking like this. There are more way of presenting the figures to understand different types of probability distribution. Uniform, exponential, normal, binomial, geometric, and hypergeometric. So there are, and these three are continuous, uniform, exponential, and normal. These three are discrete, binomial and geometric, and hypergeometric. Now you can make it more and more detailed view of different types of probability distribution. So it will depend on how deep you want to understand the probabilities distributions for your purpose. And these are quite straightforward. Now, what is experimental probability? This is the probability of an event happening based on actual experiment or observations. To calculate experimental probability of an event, we find the relative frequency of an event. So relative frequency is equal to frequency of event occurring upon total number of trials of the experiment. This is how you can represent. Now, conditional probability. What is the probability of rolling a dice and its value is less than 4? Let's see here. This is one of the example. So this is the formula how you can write it. So knowing that the value is an odd number. Now you can also go for some kind of differences between some conditional probability that is here you can see, and then Bayes theorem. This is one of the theorem which is used to handle the issues related to conditional probability. So now I am coming to the point. So Bayes theorem is derived using the definition of conditional probability. So this is derived from conditional probability. The Bayes theorem formula includes two conditional probabilities, as you can see here. So how you can represent, this is conditional probability, this is Bayes theorem. So you can say modified form of conditional probability is Bayes theorem. Now, what is Bayes theorem? So in statistics, it is a mathematical formula used to determine the conditional probability of the events. Essentially, this theorem describes the probability of an event based on prior knowledge of the conditions that might be relevant to the event prediction. Now, Bayes' theorem is used to revise previously calculated probabilities based on new information. And it is an extension of conditional probability. Now, what is random variable? A variable whose value is unknown, or a function that assigns values to each of an experiment's outcome. So here, random variable represents the outcome of a trial, an experiment, or an event, and is a specific number which is different each time when you go for trial or experiment or event. So for example, when throwing two dice, then what could happen? This is what you can understand here. So next part is, what are the major differences between continuous and discrete variables? So continuous variable, uncountable support, probability density function, probabilities assigned to the intervals of values. Each possible value has zero probability. Now in discrete, countable support, probability mass function, that is PMF. And here In continuous, it is called PDF, probability density function. Now, probability is assigned to to single values. Here, another way is each possible value has a strictly positive probability. Now, you can see in terms of figure how the random variables could look like. That is here. Then the continuous variables could look like here. So these are two different variables, continuous and discrete. Now, if you want to understand further how the continuous distribution could look like, this you can see here. And this has been presented in the way of cumulative distribution function or CDF. And for this purpose, you can also write your own Python modules. Now, another term is coming, repeated term, this is coming, normal distribution, which we have learned in the previous lectures also. So here you can again see what is normal distribution and how to write the code, and when you declare the distribution as a normal distribution, when it is a standard distribution. So this is a standard normal distribution. Everything you need to understand in terms of values, and then go for coding part and apply some condition when to declare a standard normal distribution and other normal distributions. So the next part will be something on more details on normal distribution, continuing from this slide. So this is, thank you very much, and please subscribe this channel in order to get the update immediately when we are uploading the new lectures. Thank you very much.